When I talk about peace, I specifically always talk about positive peace, which is attitudes, institutions, and structures that create and sustain peaceful societies. And as far as my advice to the world leaders, and to begin with the leaders of the SARC, would be to please just keep half a day in a month for thinking, and another half a day for you to just say hello to other leaders, your counterparts in the region. That would solve half the problems. I believe the rest would fall in place automatically. Now, the United Nations was established to stop world wars. However, local conflict resolution is not the work area for the United Nations. So we need to be mindful about SARC. We need to be mindful about empowering that institution, establishing that institution, or supporting the institutions which are taking initiatives for developing peace in SARC. Now, this is the tradition of violence that I am hinting at, that they started, and it's a never-ending vicious cycle. Now, it is also the fault of the people, which is us, who have turned a blind eye to violence. It begins by talking, by initiating, by igniting a conversation, a dialogue about political peace peacefully.
All peace is not just. You can have peace and you may still undermine the rights of the people and create that kind of circumstances. So I contest very friendly.
No, I accept totally,
the positive peace.
All the research that I've come across so far is Western, and all of them, they use a lot of positive peace. And just peace could be the South Asian research. That's what I'm looking for. See, I am looking for these things which possibly haven't reached a common person, a normal citizen. We don't understand. If you ask anyone what is world peace, they wouldn't understand. They would ask me, what are you trying to do?
They would understand what is just peace, because a hooligan in the locality can impose peace as well by putting everybody back home before the evening, and they can also, that can be a peace as well. Totalitarian states do put in peace, build peace, but that is also not just in the sense that the human rights are not being observed over there. So that's why my approach over there is a bit different, because lexicon matters. Although we put in different types of contents in the same lexicon or the same vocabulary. But leaving aside that one, coming back to your more fundamental issue on the as dialogue, political peace, and etc. My great-grandmother, before she passed away, told me, great-grandmother, that son, look at that, when you are invited by Furo Innovations, don't make that more than 3 points. They're not going to remember the fourth one you are going to say. So let me make my 3 points over here. My grandmother's 3 points. Now, my first point is that, you know, if you don't have just peace within your own country, you cannot have it in cross-border relationship. So before looking outside, please look inside. I think this is the fundamental point. My first one. And if within the country, there is no respect for human rights, there is no respect for evidence-based discussion, there is no space for public reasoning, there is no space for pluralism and tolerance to alternative views and dissent, and there is no opportunity to solve social conflicts or political conflicts through peaceful means and in a transparent and accountable fashion, let us not expect peace across the border when we do over there, because the external policy is an expansion or either vertical or horizontal expansion of your internal policy. The means you use to deal with your own citizens is exactly the means you will be using in dealing with other parties across the border.
Having said that, you have been cynical about SARC and the collapsing relationship. How do you think, you keep talking about external forces coming in, how do you think we can rebuild that and bring SARC back into what it was supposed to be?
Ms. Khanna, thank you. On the SARC resurrection, I'm not quite sure that SARC as a structure is, as it was conceived in Bangladesh, in fact, is serviceable in the future under the new circumstances. It is not only about Indo-Bangla relationship. how we are going to deal with the youngest member of SAARC, the Afghanistan, in the future, and which Afghanistan to be invited into it is quite unsure we are about that, you see. And when SAARC was conceived, and initially, in fact, it was conceived from Myanmar to Afghanistan. Afghanistan was not brought in at that time because of their domestic politics. Then it was, as you know, it was brought in, but then Myanmar was never in. And I just wonder if Myanmar was within SAARC, would it have behaved as they have behaved? That's another issue. So one of the, when I look at the SAARC Charter, and I have written on that separately, that one of the issue which we thought is good for SAARC is to avoid bilateral relationship issues. So, and we cannot convene a meeting if not all the head of the states have agreed to that. So those kind of absolute unanimity, is it helpful or not? I don't know. You know, if you look, if you all go on referring to European Union, look at European Union, there is no absolute unanimity with Poland and Hungary now, how they are behaving, as we all know. And so whether that is one principle one would look into. If you look into the African Union over there, just they have taken the decision on Mali, Guinea, Burkina Faso, you will see the issue of that kind of issues are being dealt with. Not that we are not the first one in the world to deal with this kind of things. So the second issue, which has never been, other than unanimity, absolute unanimity, is the issue of bilateral relationship was considered to be out of the agenda. But why won't the country's leaders take advantage of their face-to-face meetings and have tea on the veranda, on the sidelines? So, you know, I have done my stint accidentally in the diplomatic service. And I can tell you, many things happens not in the room. It is on the elsewhere, in the veranda or in the corridor. And, or if over your, you know, in the evening receptions and everywhere else. That is where usually you cook your policies. I'm pretty sure Mr. Kamaluddin in his own way has done it. And so why didn't we put in those kind of sideline discussions as it goes? And this is a normal practice in G20 and elsewhere, and in United Nations. So I think SAARC needs some structural restructuring before it gets to at all revived and up to the speed.
So who would do that? I mean, who would you sort of, how
who
do we encourage or approach or push?
Ms. Sharma, have you given this question to South Bloc?
Not yet.
In your country, your foreign ministry?
Not yet. I would love to do that.
Instead of giving this question to me, I think you should take it to your South Bloc mandarins. They would have a better answer than myself.
Right. I'll do that.
Yeah. So now, since you have to write somewhere,
I mean, there's no point that you start something and because there's one door closed, you don't open the other one. The idea is to keep knocking the doors. I'm sure somebody will open the door.
I am very much with you. I am very much with you. I'm just telling where the key lies to the door.
And just to let everyone know that there are a little bit of humanitarian crisis in Afghanistan. And the gentleman who was supposed to join us, apparently, maybe because he speaks about Taliban openly and is given certain, just few interviews, that his family has been missing. I think, since yesterday he was not able to connect with them. And right now he's absconding. Yeah, like we can't get through to him. So which means that there are some crises. Probably he's really lost complete touch with everyone back home.
I believe South Asia region isn't the same as it was decades back. It's not the same in terms of political landscape, demographics, along with a multitude of other factors. It's the fastest growing region in the world and the epicenter in the race for global dominance. It's definitely so much more active than it used to be decades back. And this is true for most of the countries in the region, including Maldives and India. Now, coming back to your question on insulating Maldives-India relations beyond political changes, it is a tough one. It is tough because any healthy relationship is based on understanding and catering to the needs of one another. That being said, political realities are always drawn to cater to the needs of the people. To this extent, Maldives is growing very fast, and expectations of the people are very high to maintain this growth. This, I believe, is the reason why we invited Chinese contractors to Maldives, opening up a Chinese embassy in 2010. Later on, things deteriorated dramatically, and I believe the then opposition took somewhat unfair advantage of the situation at the expense of Maldives-India relations, due to which we saw some very heavy, very unhealthy headlines coming from both sides, which created the impression of India meddling with the domestic affairs of Maldives. I think that impression is very detrimental to Maldives-India relations, especially given our long-standing history and strong ties. Because of this, it's very easy to draw a skeptical image of India. And the current administration does not help this case by not being forthright about its relations with India, which again leaves a lot of room for speculation and skepticism. To insulate Maldives-India relations, both sides must refrain from leveraging this relationship for political reasons. Our relations should be stronger than political changes, and both sides have an important role to play to demonstrate this picture. Both sides must establish and maintain good relations with leaders on all sides of the political spectrum, and both sides must ensure that the relationship is horizontal, not vertical.
So my next question to you, that's very powerful to say that leadership is horizontal, not vertical. And I think that's what we are trying to get to by the end of the conversation. My next question to you would be, sir, that as per various reports, now political instability are rising concerns over the increased radicalization in the Maldives. I mean, that's what you also mentioned, that it did lead to some very bad media reporting from there. You said that there were certain major national issues which were not sorted. Where has that major disconnect been for you personally in your leadership journey that you've decided to now take on another role? And if you really have decided that, would you like to share that with us?
Well, I have been through, I have served in a lot of political parties recently, but I found that the change that has come over Maldives within this 40, 50 years is not being addressed. I think the most important matter that we have to look at this point of time is the economics of the country. What's the economic model that can be applied to the people, where the difference in income levels and wages, all these things can be sorted out, and everyone individually can have the chance to prosper and also live a decent life. So I think that requires a complete new philosophy, new philosophy in the sense that we have to do things that another way. We don't have to keep on doing the same thing over and over again to get the same results. So we have to think differently and come up with a different solution to confront the issues that we have now existing issues of livelihoods and life, really. That is why I chose to take a different path and test those solutions.
So we wish you all the best. I'm sure with your mindset, with your progressive story, and just the way you're open to new ideas and new ideologies and innovations across the world. I'm sure that you will add a lot of value in your next leadership role to Maldives.
Thank you.
And our My next question is about, it's being a little selfish. So I would want to know that our company is called Furo Innovations, and you just spoke about innovations. So what innovative ideas do you have for us? How can we propagate and double our impact in the region and move faster towards world peace?
Well, one of the biggest challenges faced in the world right now is populism and populist leaders surrendering to counterintuitive policies which oftentimes go against the best interest of their nation's peace and security. The role of civil society, think tanks, NGOs, and policy institutes are even more important in this given context, not just to influence decision makers, but to keep citizens informed and aware of matters that are of importance to them. A democracy can only function so long as to the extent of an informed citizenry. This is the role companies like you should play to unite people across the borders, to falter the lines that divide people, and to pollinate people based on common creed, belief, and value systems. If people of two countries can be resilient in their trade, commerce, art, culture, and history, then there's hardly any political lines that can draw them apart. First step towards this direction is communication and understanding each other through right measures. If you can do it right, then you have made a huge bargain towards regional and world peace.
Right. So communication, exactly. That's exactly what it's as simple as basic. And somebody would say, what would it do? But I believe that it can actually do wonders, because that's one thing that we've not been doing. Perhaps we've been doing a lot of communication, but that has been with a lot of terms and conditions, and it's not really been a communication. It has a lot of, all our communications are like drenched in history, drenched in vengeance. There is no open communication. There is no, I'm yet to see leaders sitting across with an open mind and saying, okay, hello, we have differences, we have a history. How do we erase some of that and be more futuristic? And I think with all of your leaders and your support and your wisdom, we should be able to get all the people together to have at least have one communication, which is open communication. And if you had to give advice to the world leaders and to the leaders of the SAARC region, what would it be?
Make peace, not war. War is costlier, peace is prosperous. Create
Yes.
dialogue, create opportunity, make an effort to understand and stop fanning the fire. The inhabitants of a given country, their state must be lifted up. And we have to find innovative ways of lifting up the state of the people of each country.
Right.
And then I think that is the basic step.
Yes, poverty, disease, hunger. I think these three are major issues that if we don't solve them, and we will not be able to solve them just again, if we keep spending a lot of our money just on defense, trying to defend just from each other, right? We are spending so much money because we're living in fear of being attacked, or it's a constant fear that is taking a lot of our resources rather than
spending,
the salvation, love, compassion. So
spending money and spending money responsibly, these are two different things. So we have to understand that we have to spend money responsibly, with responsibility, fiscal responsibility. So that's where I think that's also a very, very important thing, that whatever monies, whatever spending is done in a responsible way.
Listen, I'm very humbled that you've asked me in front of two such stalwarts to talk about my little vision about political peace. Well, I am a student of political science, but that's where I left it. For the last 30 years, I've been working on reviving what is linking craft with women development. So I've actually created a forum called Royal Fables, where we actually get women of royal lineage who are working with local craftswomen and using that as a forum for developing them economically, making them stand on their feet. And I'm also working very actively with groups now in Jammu and Kashmir, because, you know, globally, everybody knows that to empower women in violent areas, the only forum you can use is through craft, because they don't have to leave the house. They can do things with their hand, look after their kids. So I've been working on this for a long time. So in a way, for me, political peace as a mother, as a woman, as an entrepreneur is all about being able to give a chance for women to move freely, to not lose their families. And, you know, everybody talks about men dying, but, you know, the impact it has on families and on women, and how it leaves them devastated is something I get very interested in. And we should actually support our neighbors in a more magnanimous and open way. And like Dr. Bhattacharya said, let's all have addas, because only when you talk to each other that you are able to resolve things.
Then in that case, if we get through Mr. Zhao, we'll possibly bring him back next quarter. We'll then close the conversation for today.
Thank you. Absolutely a pleasure.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your time. Thank you all, everyone who participated. Please, it is a collective, effort.